And we're back. Burnt Rubber Racing, the second episode of the day. Henry John alongside Zach McAdoo, just like we left off with the first one. Zach, how are you doing in the, has it been 3-5 minutes since we hopped off the air with our full update of all the races and news from the world of motorsports?
I'm doing terrible. This is the worst 3 minutes that we've had since we started this. Like, oh my God, I don't think we can do any worse.
Well, you know, we sort of got the intro maybe a little cleaner than the last show, so I'll take credit for that since
because whatever.
But you know, we got more to talk about, right? So we're recording a couple of different episodes here on this Thursday. We'll put them up for your listening pleasure wherever you get your podcasts. Follow and subscribe to Burnt Rubber Racing. We'll put them up here. Probably want to go out tonight, and then we'll have the other one for you early next week in preparation for getting the racing seasons back underway as NASCAR, IndyCar return from their 2-week, or in IndyCar's case, I feel like it's been a month, Olympic break.
It's been a month.
Yeah, they've been off for a little while here. But at any rate, this second show, we wanted to dive into the standings, kind of look at what's what, who's who for all three NASCAR series. We'll look at the IndyCar quick as well. And then to get our, what shall we say, our handicapping talk in for this week, right? Because we don't have any racing this coming weekend. We're going to dive back into the NASCAR Championship futures odds. Now, we talked about these when we had a week off back earlier in the season. Obviously, there's been a little bit of movement since then with things developing. You get a Kurt Busch and Eric Almirola surprising the field, punching their ticket into the playoffs as well. So their odds obviously crashing down. But yeah, so we'll dive into some strategy, some advice for those of you who plan to bet on those also, and then kind of look at some of our picks, where the odds stand now, where the value might be. First, though, what do we want to start with here as we dive into the standings? Should we do NASCAR Cup right off the top, or do we want to work our way up, kind of go in reverse?
We'll go top down.
All right, that sounds like a good plan. So, you know, we criticize ESPN for a number of things on this show, but when it comes to the standings tables, I like how they lay it out better than pretty much anyone. Now, NASCAR gives you a lot of stats along with the point standings. ESPN does a good job of tracking it based on wins instead of points, so you can really see, you know, in terms of wins, who ranks where. Now, if you want to see projected points for the playoffs, refer to NASCAR.com. So, Zach, I'm using ESPN. I don't know if you want to hop on NASCAR just so we have the two different perspectives maybe, or if you want to look at the same thing, but up to you. Kyle Larson, obviously he's still the guy there at the top, although he hasn't been winning lately. That top 10 streak did unfortunately come to an end on the 4th of July. He's still been running solid. He's got the 4 wins, 861 points on the season, 11 top 5s, 15 top 10s. Those are both more than any other driver except one. He's tied with one, and that is Denny Hamlin, who is the current points leader, 874 points in the standings. So he's 13 to the good of Larson there. And he also has 11 top 5s, 15 top 10s. And Zach, he's done all of that without winning a race, so that is a far cry between the two there, as Larson, of course, with 4 wins. Now, Hamlin doesn't have that win to lock him into the playoffs, but he's almost guaranteed to get in on points. And if he maintains his lead in the points, it doesn't matter if we have, you know, 3, 4, 5 different winners here the rest of the way, and it isn't even you know, drivers with wins that don't get in. As long as Hamlin finishes first in points, he is in the playoffs, even if we have 16 or more winners. So he's still racing for a lot there, and maybe he will finally get that first win. Anything you want to add to those two there? In terms of, I know, projected points, you know, with the playoff seeding and whatnot, even without that win, Hamlin at least was among the top 4, I think, in terms of the bonus points he'd be getting to start the playoffs off.
No, yeah, with being the regular season champion like he is right now, he'd get the automatic bid, he'd get the 15 points. So, I mean, it's not a bad thing he hasn't won yet. It is kind of bad. This is what NASCAR wants you to win races to win a championship, which we'll talk more about that later in the show. But, I mean, Hamlin, Hamlin, he's fine right now. He's just got to maintain that points balance.
Yep, and along with Larson, with multiple wins on the season, we got 4 other drivers: Martin Truex Jr. and Alex Bowman, both with 3 wins apiece. And then Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott have both won twice. Probably at least one of those names is going to add another, as we got a couple road course races down the stretch of the regular season. And, looking at those drivers, Truex, Busch, and Elliott, all 3 are 3 of the best in the Cup Series right now on road courses. Here's a question for you. Do you think Kyle Larson finishes the season with the most wins? Do you think there's a tie? Do you think someone overtakes him? Who do you think finishes with the most wins during the regular season? That would be, and what do you think that number is? Are we going to see a driver win 5 races this year?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a driver win 5. Kyle Larson's not to win races. He might get to 6. I want to say 7's pushing a little bit, but I think Kyle Larson will be probably the wins leader that's going to into the season. At the end of the year, maybe Truex ties him, but Larson definitely will be on top. At least in some capacity.
Yeah, I could see that too. He's certainly been the car to beat all year. Just signed that extension with Hendrick Motorsports that we talked about in our show here just a few minutes ago. He's going to be back in that HendrickCars.com number 5 next year. Kyle Larson really putting it down here in his first year with HMS. A plethora of drivers with 1 win now on the season. We've added 2 more to them here in the last 2 races. That would be William Byron, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, so your Penske trio there. Kurt Busch is next in line on points. Christopher Bell, Michael McDowell, and Eric Almirola with 377 standings points. Without that win, he would be sitting just
23rd.
Yeah, tied for 23rd in points. But he's in the playoffs because he just won at New Hampshire. Totally flipped this whole thing upside down. It's certainly shaping up to be an interesting playoff field here at this point. You throw in the Daytona 500 winner Michael McDowell. Will we see more of him with a couple road courses? And we go back to Daytona, of course, to finish the regular season. Certainly a lot of names in there to consider. Among those drivers with 1 win, William Byron, 14 top 10s. Of course, that just sits 1 behind Larson and Hamlin for the most in the series, tied with Kyle Busch there. And you've got 2 others, is all with double-digit top 10s, and that would be Joey Logano with 13 and Ryan Blaney with 11. You think consistency is going to be rewarded the rest of the way in the playoffs, or one of these guys who maybe haven't been in the top 10 every week but have a win, one of those stand out to you as a name to watch here as we sort of prepare to look at the championship futures later in the show too?
A tough question because I feel like this season's proven it's unpredictable. Between you have Michael McDowell winning at 500, you have Bell winning the road course. I never would have thought Bell would win a road course as his first race win, and then you have Almirola winning last week. It's mind-boggling the stuff that happens. So you can't really make a prediction yet with 4 races to go before we see the cut line.
Yeah, those names you just shouted out. Eric Almirola, 3 top 10s all season. That's it. McDowell with 5 and Christopher Bell with 9. Now, Bell has been throwing down some solid runs here lately. He was runner-up at Road America and then again last week here at New Hampshire. So maybe the 20 car is feeling themselves a little bit here as we draw toward the end of the regular season, ready to make a move, but still just 11th among those drivers with wins in points, 532 on the year. There was that rough patch in the middle, so interesting to note for sure. Now, we mentioned Denny Hamlin. Of course, he is the first driver without a win in points. Kevin Harvick and Tyler Reddick round out the playoff field of 16 as it currently stands. Both of those drivers have done it on consistency and thus on points. Harvick 6 top 5s, 15 top 10s this year, and Tyler Reddick with 1 lone top 5 finish and 11 top 10s. So, while they haven't won races, they've been getting it done, being consistent week in, week out. I don't know, though. now that we've had these other winners here these last couple of weeks, this is the fun part where we start looking at some of these names lurking below that cut line in the standings. We talked about it a little bit on our first show here that we recorded, but with Almirola's win, that of course puts Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon, the Richard Childress teammates, literally battling each other for that 16th and final spot, assuming no other driver wins, right? If no other driver wins, does Reddick hang on? How do you see this shaking out? And of course, you're super nervous. We hate to bring it up to you again, but Harvick and Reddick are your boys, and they're the last two in as it currently stands.
I mean, it's a tough one. The road course I think favors Reddick. Then you go to Michigan. No, you have the other road course at Indy, which I think that might favor Reddick again. Michigan, either way, and then Daytona. You can't even favor one or the other because it could be a surprise winner, and then they're both out. So, I mean, at this point, it's hold on to everything you can and just hope for the best. Because how many points back is Reddick to Harvick? He's 77 back.
Yeah, it's a little ways here. You said 77?
Yeah, that's what I have. So, unless something happens to Harvick in the next two out of the 4 races, he's probably not going to catch him. So, either one of them, I should say. So, you got to just hope for the best right now. Hope for no more new winners. Unless you have the new winner.
That gets me to my next question. You know, you laughed at me when I even threw out the idea of 16 winners earlier on in the season. We're just 3 away, and Denny Hamlin still hasn't won. So that's a guy who I think definitely could win. Looking at some of these other names on the list, yeah, the points gap is a bit big, unless we're talking about Dillon to Reddick at just 5 points separating them. Chris Buescher in 18th in points, and he is further down than that, over 100 behind the cut line as of now. But there's drivers among these names that they are capable of winning races, whether it's the road course, whether it's Daytona. You know, we just saw Almirola shock the world at New Hampshire. Who's to say that can't happen again somewhere else? Do you still think I'm crazy? I don't know. Can we get to 16 winners for the playoffs? I think there are 3 names in the field who could still win a race. That I know for sure. Whether it upsets the playoff grid that much, I don't know, because I think Denny Hamlin would be a favorite to win a race, right? Tyler Reddick, we're both on the record. We think he's a favorite to win a race at some point. Whether it happens in the regular season or not, we don't know. Kevin Harvick, obviously he can get it done probably when we least expect it. It seems like this year. I think it's possible.
Yeah, it is possible, but 16 before the end of the regular season. That's where we have to get. And you think that this week it's next week it's Watkins Glen. It's going to be Chase Elliott. It's probably going to be up there and get the win again for the 3rd time in a row at Watkins Glen. Then you have another road course where you're going to have probably Larson and Truex and Elliott fighting for another win there. That's 2 of them right there, and that's not going to you're not going to get to 16 after that. You can get to 15 because Harvick, who swept Michigan last year, he could very well get a win there, and then Denny Hamlin can win Daytona, and he's proven it in the past. But as far as getting to 16, I don't see it happening still.
All right, Mr. Pessimistic. He's been on that bandwagon all year. He's going to stay with it. I'm going to keep out hope just because I think it would be wild. This has been a wild season for sure. Now I just want to read off some of these names here below the cut line as we continue this discussion here a little bit. So mentioned Austin Dillon and Chris Buescher, Matt DiBenedetto in 19th, Ross Chastain, Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Daniel Suarez. So you got those are the guys in the group above 400 points. Chase Briscoe, 377 points. That ties him with Eric Almirola. Now, of course, Almirola's win has him in the playoffs if the season were to end today. So that drops you down to the through 24 drivers there on points. I don't think, other than Dillon, I don't see anyone pointing their way in. I think Reddick's been more consistent than all of those guys this year. I think in terms of points, you're looking at a battle here between Reddick and Dillon the rest of the way. Now, in terms of wins, I know you don't see it, but Matt Benedetto was out front of Road America for a little while. He knows how to get around a road course. Ross Chastain, I've been uber impressed with how Ross Chastain's been running on the road courses this year. I like him as a dark horse going here to the Glen and going to the Brickyard. And both of those guys, I think, are very much alive at Daytona. Now we get to Daytona, a guy who isn't really a factor on the road courses would be Bubba Wallace. He runs well on the super speedways. Look for him there. I would say the same for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I would even say Daniel Suarez or Chase Briscoe. Those guys both know how to run road courses. I know they're not the favorites in any of these races. None of these guys are the favorites by any means. Now, Daytona, of course, it's very much more up in the air being a super speedway. That's 6-7 names right there. I'm not willing to count out on winning just yet. Of those names, what one or two stand out to you who could win their way in? Because I don't think it's happening on points, and I'm going to assume you agree. The math there's just not enough time, right?
No, you have the closest one is Chris Buescher, and Buescher is over 100 points back of Austin Dillon, who's also out right now. So it's not happening. But man,
that Almirola win just sunk the ship for anyone else in terms of points, really.
No, I don't think it sunk the ship. I mean, even before then, it was still 100 points from Dillon to the next Chris Buescher. So it was before
Kurt Busch, actually. So we can go.
Well, no, because Busch was the one who won to get it in there to separate the bar.
Right, but before Kurt Busch won, he was 16th, right, going to Atlanta, and the gap was what, like 50 points, 20, 30 points. It wasn't that big between he and Buescher going to Atlanta. Once Busch won, that was kind of the end of like that opened the gap wide open in terms of the points. So that's what I meant to say. Sorry.
So yeah, but I don't see the 23-11 team getting a win this year. In Trackhouse, the two new teams, I don't see it. I mentioned Stenhouse last show. I shouldn't say last week. He stunned the field before at Talladega and Daytona. He could do it again. Came close to doing it at Talladega last year. So don't count him out when it comes to Daytona. Who's a road course guy that can steal? I guess
Chastain. Come on, you got to talk about Chastain.
It's got to be Chastain who might, because the inconsistencies aside, he's had good runs. He's just got to learn to keep his head together, not get too aggressive, and not knock the car around, because he's had good cars before. He was running down Larson at Nashville, just ran out of time. So he's proven in the past he can keep a car together. But can he get that win?
Well, Chip Ganassi certainly proved they can get the win with Kurt Busch there too. So that's got to be a little bit of a shot in the arm for Chastain. And he has been consistent on the road courses. I know he hasn't been consistent on the ovals. The road courses, he's been throwing out consistent results all year long, it seems like. I'm telling you, don't count him out just yet. Chase Elliott blows an engine or something at Watkins Glen. It's a whole new race once you never know. I think there are names there. What about Matty D? Because you didn't mention him. Does he, he's looking for a ride. He's out to prove himself. Of course, going to be out of the 21 car. We both liked him to win a race coming into the year. Are we off that train? I'm going to say one thing. If I have to pick him or Chastain to win a race going the rest of the year, I think I'm going with the 42.
Yeah, I think it's time to sell the 21. I don't think he's going to get number 100 for Wood Brothers Racing this year. And as much as a likable guy he is, as much as you're liked, it doesn't get you a win. And I think many drivers of the past have proved that. And unfortunately, Matty D is one of them, which sucks, because like I've met the guy. He's super nice. Had no problem signing autographs for me. But his best chance was a couple years ago in the 95 when Newman destroyed that chance.
Yeah, and he really had his chance, you could say, even this year at Talladega there, and just made the wrong decision going on to that final lap, opened the door wide open for Kozlowski. So those are the breaks of racing sometimes, but, he might be back at Daytona. You never know. He knows how to get around the super speedways himself. With that, we can jump over to the Xfinity Series here quick. Austin Cindric, big surprise there. He's going to be in the Cup Series, that number 2, speaking of Brad Keselowski, next year. Your reigning Xfinity Series champ remains atop the standings. 4 wins, 15 top 10s, 12 top 5s, 797 points. 2 wins to the good over any other driver. AJ Allmendinger is the only one within 100 points of Cindric at this point in the Xfinity Series season. He is joined by Justin Allgaier as the only 2 other drivers in the Xfinity Series full-time, that is, with multiple wins. Now, of course, you got Ty Gibbs down there running a part-time schedule. He has won 2 races that he has been a part of this year for Joe Gibbs as well. Jeb Burton, interesting, Myatt Snyder rounds out the top 5 in terms of the points because of the wins. Then you drop down Daniel Hemrick. Atlanta, bad beat. But he's the first non-winning driver in the points, 684. That would put him actually 3rd overall if we were just counting accumulated points. So those are your top half dozen. Now, in the Xfinity Series, only 12 drivers jump into the playoffs. Anyone in particular you'd like to talk about there? Daniel Hemrick going to get a win this year? Is this Austin Cindric's championship to lose? Because it kind of feels that way again, but anything stand out?
I mean, who won the Phoenix race earlier this year?
Oh gosh,
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I'll get it.
But I'm looking at the unofficial standings that NASCAR provides. The one guy who was Cindric, so yeah. I mean, barring something going very wrong, it's probably going to be Cindric again because he already has 27 playoff points. But one guy who's disappointed in how he there's no way he keeps a ride next year is Riley Herbst. 8 points out of the playoffs right now behind Myatt Snyder. Well, it's not actually behind Myatt Snyder. He'd be behind Michael Annett, who's 32 points back, and Michael Annett has missed the last 2 races. So, I mean, you can't. This is a guy who's in the same equipment that Briscoe was last year, where Briscoe won 9 races, and you're not even putting together top 10s. You got to get the boot. There's Riley Herbst has been the biggest disappointment in all of NASCAR this year.
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be tough sledding there, I think, to make up that difference even too. Now, looking at that cutoff line, as you mentioned, we'll kind of drop down here further. Harrison Burton, of course, going to be joining Cindric in the Cup Series next year. 7th in the standings as of now. Justin Haley, rounding out the colleague trio. We mentioned one point back earlier in the season whether or not all 3 colleague drivers could win a race this year, and I don't think we were thinking Haley would be the one without a win. He's going to be in the Cup Series next year as well. Then we've got Noah Gragson, Brandon Jones, Jeremy Clements, still hanging on to that top 12 spot, and Michael Annett, who, like you said, has missed the last 2, rounding out the top 12. The battle, though, at the cut line has tightened up. Now, I know you said Riley Herbst is a disappointment, and, that's rightfully so, 32 points back. 32 points, that's a very different picture around that cut line than what we saw earlier in the year. Brandon Brown also right there. He's just 41 points back of that 12th and final spot. Probably those are the only 2 guys I would say with a chance to get in on points. I don't know. Maybe you can disagree. There's someone further down you want to give a shot to. Do you see Annett or Clements getting taken over by either one of those guys? Does Herbst have something that hasn't been there all year down the stretch, maybe? Brandon Brown, smaller team. They've been putting together some solid runs. Do they have enough juice down the stretch to catch the field here? Now, Kyle Busch, he's not going to be running any more Xfinity races, so maybe some other potential winners perhaps too, although Christopher Bell goes and takes the one as soon as Busch is out. I don't know.
No, I think what's going to depend on Annett making it or missing it is his injury that has kept him out the last 2 races. He missed Atlanta. He missed New Hampshire. And these 2 weeks breaks is going to help. The 2 week breaks is going to help him out a lot because he's going to be able to heal. I don't remember what his injury was. I think they said it was something with his ankle. I don't remember if it was a fracture, like a hairline fracture or what. But I mean, you have to think that if he's back, he's going to be fine and to keep his points lead over Herbst. Because there's there's more races left before the playoffs than in Cup for Xfinity. But I mean, Herbst hasn't been running as good as and that's saying something.
Right, yeah. So we'll see how that one shapes out there for sure. Now the Truck Series, again, kind of a bit of a runaway at the top at least. John Hunter Nemechek, 5 wins driving for KBM this year, 8 top 5s, 11 top 10s. He's almost 100 points to good, 85 exactly over Ben Rhodes, the only other trucker with multiple wins this year with 2. 605 total points for Nemechek, 520 for Rhodes. Austin Hill, Todd Gilliland, and Sheldon Creed round out the top 5 in the standings as they are the other 3 drivers to win one race this year. And below them, so the top 10, of course, qualifying in the trucks, we got Zane Smith, Matt Crafton, Grant Enfinger, Carson Hocevar, and Stuart Friesen. Currently, those top 10 drivers on points. I guess I can keep going here. We can, you can kind of break this down however you want to. But Chandler Smith is just 13 back of Friesen, who has actually dropped in the standings a bit. And then we got Derek Kraus, Tyler Ankrum, and Johnny Sauter, the other 3 drivers at 300 points or better in the standings. Friesen with 364, just to reference where those guys all kind of sit. I don't know that I would go below that in terms of points. The trucks are finally going to be back in action this coming weekend at Watkins Glen. Where do you want to start here in looking at this? I mean, this feels like Nemechek's championship to lose, much like the Xfinity feels like Cindric's, at least in my opinion. But there's some names here that I don't want to shut out altogether. Zane Smith, obviously, I've been high on him all year. He's the guy I think who could still win a race before this year is up. Young Carson Hocevar has been impressive to me at times. Do you see someone else sneaking into the standings? What do you got on the trucks?
I'm looking at it right now. For some reason, NASCAR seems screwed up. Why? Oh, because Enfinger doesn't count. Okay, so they have 11 in the top 10. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. But then I remember that they have Enfinger out. I do not see anyone.
Oh, that's right. So that would mean Smith is in, right?
Yeah, Chandler Smith is in right now.
Yeah, okay.
So okay, they went to that. So I don't see anyone getting in. I don't see Derek Cross getting in. The one who might. Well, how is Johnny Sauter on road courses? Because that could be.
To do some digging on that to answer it out. The trucks don't run a ton of road courses, so
it's like it's been one every year for like the past.
Yeah.
But
and they haven't run at Watkins Glen since when?
Before I was a fan.
I know, me too. So
yeah, it goes to show you how long it's been since these guys have run. But only 5 drivers. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5 drivers have wins this year, so they'll have their extra points going with them. Nemechek has plus 28 over Rhodes as of if they were to start the playoffs right now. And the cutoff is this week, not this weekend. Next weekend at Watkins Glen. So it's time. It's time. You got to put up or shut up now, and it sucks.
Basically, you got to go win a race.
It sucks. Their last race would have been almost a month ago by the time that Watkins Glen rolls around. So to have that much of a layoff and then be like, oh yeah, we have one race to either make the playoffs or miss. So it's just hold on and good luck at this point.
Yeah, you're kind of winter in at this point, and then they got a whole nother layoff before we even get to the playoffs, because of course the Cup's basically got a whole another month almost of racing. So before we get to the start of the postseason,
Hold on.
so interesting.
I'm pretty sure that the trucks start in August. I don't remember where it is. They only have one race in August. Worldwide Technology Raceway. So August 20th.
Oh, okay, you're right. Yeah, I forgot about that one. So let's see, that would be 2 weeks. So they'll have 2 weeks between end of the regular season and the playoffs. I'm screwing up the trucks all over the place.
It's hard to believe that we're already talking about playoffs in NASCAR.
I know, because usually everything doesn't start until September, but I guess they're getting going earlier this year. If I remember right, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there's a surprise winner, like you said, the unknown of the road course. They haven't been to Watkins Glen in our practically lifetimes, I don't think. The trucks, that is. So who knows what we'll see this weekend. Real quick before we dive into those betting odds, IndyCar. Alex Palou, Pato Award, your two multi-race winners this season, are the top two in points. Palou currently 39 to the good over Award. Been a little more consistent, although both have 8 top 10s. Palou 7 top 5s to Award 6. Scott Dixon also very much in the picture, the defending champion, 328 points. Joseph Newgarden, 315. Marcus Ericsson rounds out the top 5. Surprise win. Almost ran down another one there at Mid-Ohio back in their last race, which seems forever ago. He rounds out the top 5, 280 points, but that's 104 behind current standings leader Award. Palou. I don't know that you can really go beyond Newgarden in terms of drivers who have a shot to win this thing. The double points is gone from the Indy 500. Now, that didn't really affect the standings this year because part-timer Castro Neves getting that win. What are your thoughts here on this top 5? Who would you see as the favorite at this point? Is it kind of Palou's to lose, or is he not so secure there despite a 40-point cushion as IndyCar gets set to finally resume their season?
I mean, how many races are left? That's what it comes down to. Where is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 races left. 40 points is not a big gap, so it's not completely over. I don't want to say it's Alex Palou's to lose, but at this point, it's not. He's not safe yet. You can't call it his to lose, and it's not anyone's to gain really, because one race and they either make or break their season. Especially with the last week being a double points race like it was at Indy 500.
What are you thinking in terms of those behind him? Do you like Award? Do you like Dixon? Do you like Newgarden? Who do you think jumps up there maybe and gives them a real run here as we come down the stretch? Now, they're, like you said, 6 races left. IndyCar's back next weekend at Nashville, a race that both of us and really everyone in the racing world very much looking forward to that course. Then they've got Indy. Then they've got Worldwide Technology Raceway, same weekend as the trucks, oddly enough, the day after the trucks begin their postseason there. And then they're off to Portland to kick off September there. So those are the next 4 for IndyCar. Which of those 3? Maybe Marcus Ericsson? I don't know. Who do you see jumping up and giving him the best challenge?
I think it's going to be a tight knit between the top 3, Palou, Award, and Dixon. Don't count out Dixon. He might be 56 points back, but he's proven that it's never over for him until he's mathematically eliminated. And I want to say 2015 proved that, because he tied with Montoya and got the tiebreaker based on wins. So these guys are gonna go out and get the points that they need, and who knows? But it's gonna be one of those top 3.
Yeah, Newgarden's got momentum too, coming off of the win at Mid-Ohio, finally getting Penske off the schneid here this year. So maybe a 4th horse into the race there as well. So we'll be excited to look ahead to that IndyCar race at Nashville on next week's show, along with previewing the NASCAR Trucks and Cup Series at Watkins Glen. we're going to wrap up this little standings show here, this mini show, if you will, just looking at the championship futures odds to win the NASCAR Cup Series 2021 championship. Had a little bit of movement, like I said, since the last time we looked at these odds. Now, if you're going to bet the futures odds, right, you really got to do it before the playoffs start, because once you got those 16 drivers locked in there, once they're racing for a championship, you're really just going to be – you're not going to have a ton of value left compared to what you could have gotten a few weeks earlier, a few months earlier if you bet back middle or earlier in the season. But we're kind of coming into that window here now where it's really your last opportunity to get the best bang for your buck on some of these NASCAR futures numbers. So we're looking at DraftKings here, McAdoo. Kyle Larson's still the favorite, plus 280, almost a little short. I'm not really enticed by that at all when it comes to championship futures betting. The other caveat I would throw in there, as good as we've seen Larson run this year, we just ran one of the most comparable tracks on the circuit to Phoenix Raceway, which is where that championship race will be held. You can make the championship 4. That doesn't mean you won the championship. What did we talk about coming out of New Hampshire, that 750 horsepower package? Fords almost look better than Chevys. So I don't think it's a done deal by any stretch, even if Larson is in that championship 4, plus 280. I don't want anything to do with the current futures favorite. Am I crazy? Are you actually going to bet that number? That's like shorter than race odds almost.
No, I'm leaving Larson where he is right now because, like you said, Larson's not. I don't know what his Phoenix stats are from earlier this year, but like you said, New Hampshire he didn't race that well, and he got blasted by the Fords pretty much. So
it was a very quiet 7th place. Like he wasn't out front. It wasn't what we've seen from Larson this year. Plus 280, it just makes no sense. If you wanted to bet Larson, you needed to be doing that long before now, I think.
And now is definitely not time to touch him, especially after New Hampshire. So it's going to be a skip from me for Larson as of right now.
Yeah, so we're both on the same page there. Now this next window of drivers, maybe some different feelings. I don't know. We'll see where we get to here. Chase Elliott, plus 550. He's currently the next shortest odds on the board. Kyle Busch, you got it plus 650. Denny Hamlin, plus 750. Martin Truex Jr., 8-1. I look at that list, and I know 2 guys that I might take a shot on them based on where the numbers have been moving all year. Do I love the value on any of those numbers at those odds for a futures ticket? Not really. I feel like I could find better payouts somewhere else. However, I think a lot of these guys, any of these guys, could be contending. Based on where the odds have been and where they are now, there are a couple there I might take a shot on, but I want to hear from you first. What are your thoughts on those 4? Because these are, with Larson, they are round out the group of 5 drivers who have single-digit odds. Everyone else 10-1 or longer.
DraftKings does know that the championship is not Halloween, right? Because I'm looking at that now, and they're not going for Martinsville.
Yeah, they'll change it. Don't worry about DraftKings.
But I would go with Truex. I mean, he won earlier this year. If I had to choose out of those guys, I'd pick Truex because he won earlier this year. He's got the 3 wins in the bank to help him push forward. He might not be having the best runs right now, but he has proven that he can get to the Final 4, and he's won it before, as much as I hate that. But so it's never – you can't count him out yet.
I'm right there with you. I love it. Truex and also Denny Hamlin would be the 2 that I am looking at here. You mentioned Martin Truex Jr. having 3 wins. He'd currently be the number 2 seed if the playoffs were to start today. 23 playoff points. That's still a little behind Larson here, 19 behind him. But out of everyone else in there, he's the 2 seed despite being only 7th on points, despite being incredibly inconsistent here in this kind of middle stretch of the season. So Truex 8-1 compared to where he was earlier in the year after those 3 wins when he was the driver with the most wins. I'm pretty sure we were talking about him down around 5-1 or less. I like the value there. And Denny Hamlin, he's been the most consistent driver all year. He's leading the points, and he hasn't won a race, just 50 cents cheaper than Truex, despite not winning a race, 20 playoff points. you got to like that standing when you're starting out here as well. And he's showing, while not winning a race, that he can get the job done. He can possibly advance in these playoffs on points. I like Denny Hamlin at plus 750 as well. Those odds have gone up a little bit, I believe, from earlier in the year, as he still has not won a race. Now we kind of get into that tier, though, where we're looking for a little more bang for our buck here, if you will. We got Joey Logano at 10-1. Kevin Harvick is 12-1, along with Brad Keselowski. Alex Bowman, 14-1. Ryan Blaney, 18-1. A little Ford heavy there. And then we got a couple of Hendrick boys. Of course, Kyle Larson and Elliott topping the list. What are you liking out of that group in the teens?
You skipped over William Byron, by the way, just to let you know. But
I said William Byron, didn't I?
You said Brad Keselowski at 12-1, and then you skipped right to Alex Bowman, who is probably the guy I like the most out of all these guys right here. I mean, I hate to call him Mr. Where did he come from, but it's exactly where he is, because he just comes out of nowhere and wins. He did it at Richmond. He did it, well, kind of did it at Dover. He absolutely did it at Pocono. Why not the championship? It just makes sense. You're muted.
I mean, I could see that coming as well. I think 14-1, he's well worth a look. William Byron's another one who I'd be tempted. He's been so consistent. He's right there with Denny Hamlin. I don't like the price enough, I don't think. 12-1, and you're telling me you got Bowman, that's teammate, who's 1-1. Bowman is probably the one that I'm looking at there as well. So we agree yet again. The Fords ran great at New Hampshire. Other than Logano and Harvick, not a ton of consistency. And I don't know that Ford's going to have the winning power in the playoffs to make the championship for. Interesting to see how that plays out. None of them really going to be starting from an advantageous position in terms of playoff points unless something changes. Those guys I'm going to stay away from for now. They're all a little too highly priced. I just don't think enough of Ryan Blaney at 18-1 to really get involved there either. Now we got four other drivers currently locked into the playoff field that we haven't gone over so far. That would be Kurt Busch, 25-1, Christopher Bell, 30-1, Eric Almirola, 35-1. If you wanted to bet Almirola on the futures market, kudos to you for doing it, number one, because nobody saw him making the playoffs. That value is dried up now big time after his shocking win at New Hampshire. The other driver who has won a race, though, Michael McDowell, all the way down at 150-1 to claim the championship. Now, we're a long ways away from his Daytona 500 win. Not sure Front Row Motorsports will quite have the horsepower to get it done in the playoffs and survive. But of those four, Zach, any that you would take a shot on, who would be the preferred choice? Certainly getting the value in McDowell, but I don't know. That kind of feels like you're throwing away $1 in a dream.
That's what I'm trying to look up here, because, okay, let's say he does get a miraculous win at Daytona again. That's 10. He's taking 10 playoff points with him. He'd have to survive Darlington, Richmond, and Bristol. I don't see that happening going forward, so you're wasting your $1 there as much as you would get in return if he did somehow miraculously make it past the round of 16. Because if you look at the round of 12, he's got Talladega and Charlotte, so that's two races that he could do very well in. I thought Charlotte was in the round of 8, so this is definitely going to kill any chance you have going into the round of 8 with Texas, Kansas, Martinsville. So I don't see it happening for McDowell. That'd be a waste of $1 going forward. But if you have to look at a guy, I would have to look at Kurt Busch. As much as I have harped on the inconsistencies of Chip Ganassi, I feel like there's something there that Chip wants to go out with a championship. So why not do it? Send your guy. Why not have Kurt Busch do it? And not a bad value at 25-1.
Yeah, not really at all. I mean, that both Chip Ganassi cars have been picking it up of late. I agree with you on McDowell. It's getting through that round of 16. Then he could make something happen in that round of 12. But then after that, the same thing. It's like, where do you go? And everyone's kind of going to probably be a bit ahead of him in terms of playoff points at that point anyway. So tough to get excited about that. Unless you could find a way to hedge it, I don't know. A little tougher to hedge in NASCAR than it is other sports. The guy I'm looking at, though, out of that quartet, Christopher Bell. And he's been putting together some solid runs of late. Just finished runner-up at New Hampshire. Pocono, well, it wasn't quite as great for him, but between there, Atlanta, top 10, finished 8th. Road America was also runner-up. We got a couple road courses left. He can build a little more momentum. Pocono, he was fast both days. He just seemed to get into people, couldn't stay out of the way of others. His finish on Sunday, especially, was no fault of his own. But going back before that, even top 10 run at Nashville, finishing 9th. That 20 team is quietly building some momentum. 30-1. I know they really don't have a lot of playoff points as of now. They could potentially pad that number the rest of the way. I'd take a look at the Joe Gibbs power. They've definitely been more consistent than Chip Ganassi this year. I don't know. If I were to say I'd rather side with a Gibbs car, $5 longer odds than your Kurt Busch pick, do you feel like I'm coming at you there? What would be your response to that? Because I like how Christopher Bell is driving right now, and I like how Kurt Busch is driving too. Like, we've talked a lot about Ganassi, but I don't know. I'm curious.
I mean, Bell's not a bad pick. I'm not, but when it comes to playoffs, I think you got a guy who has experience, and Bell hasn't been in the playoffs yet. Kurt Busch has. He's had a very wrong run in the past in these playoffs. So I would like that out of a driver, and I feel like the one car in his team, they're going to try to push.
Yeah, I hear you on that. That experience, that would be an advantage with your pick for sure. He made the round of 8 last year quietly too. Remember winning at Las Vegas there? So Busch knows how to get it done when the pressure is on. How about some of these drivers that are outside of the playoffs as of now in the standings? I mean, Tyler Reddick is in the playoffs as far as the standings are concerned, 60-1, but he is nowhere near safe. Austin Dillon, though, only 5 points behind him in the points standings, 80-1 odds to win the championship. So maybe a little the market kind of liking Reddick there over his fellow RCR teammate. And as of now, they're going to be battling on the cut line just to qualify. So interesting discrepancy in the odds there, at least for me. Matty D, 100-1. Bubba Wallace, 100-1. Ross Chastain, 150-1. Dollar and a Dream. I mean, I'm not even going to wait. That's my dollar and a dream. I still think that win is going to come on one of these road courses, and I still give him a shot at Daytona. I would rather bet Ross Chastain than Michael McDowell to win the championship right now. I would. I'm going crazy. I would. I don't know where my love affair with Chastain's coming. At any rate, Chris Buescher, Daniel Suarez also 150-1, as is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. What do you think about those guys? I don't know that anyone else we see really jumping up in there, winning a race maybe to sneak in as Almirola did. But of those names, curious to hear your thoughts on the Reddick-Dillon discrepancy, and then any dollar and a dreams out of there. If it's not going to be McDowell, it's got to be somewhere.
As far as I think Reddick, can you say he's been more consistent this year? I mean, they both, Dillon and Reddick, and this is probably their two best consistency years they probably had in both. Well, Reddick, of course, Reddick. This is Reddick's second year, so it can be his best year. But as far as Dillon, I don't remember a year where he's been as consistent as he towards the front as he has been this year, and he might not even make the playoffs this year. It's
a wild year.
Yeah, it's a crazy year, and I still got to go with Reddick over Dillon, like I think we said earlier in the show. A dollar and a dream. Let's go with the guy who should be nowhere near the playoffs, especially considering he has less points than James Davison, who has missed 7 more races than Quinn Houff. Quinn Houff, dollar and a dream, baby. Let's go. No. It's as bad as Cody Ware. Oh, my God. But on a serious note,
1,000-1, just for those listening at home. Quinn Houff.
Yeah, Quinn Houff and Anthony Alfredo, 1,001 odds. Listen to 1,001 odds to win the championship. That's
it's not happening.
No. if you gave me odds on either one of them to spin in a race, I might take that. But
shout out Cody Ware and Anthony Alfredo, by the way. Both came through for us at New Hampshire, going around there.
Same with Quinn Houff, but Quinn Houff that wasn't on Quinn. That wasn't on Houff. That was more on Newman.
Houff's fault.
No, for once Houff wasn't in the wrong. But as far as down to dream, time to get down to business. It's Ross Chastain. The way he's driven this year, where he's up, he's down, he's all around, aggressive, finding his way through Sonoma. I mean, it's got to be a guy who can surprise people, and he has surprised people. I didn't think he would get a second place finish at Nashville, the other N track the track that starts with the letter N on the schedule. I can't talk. I'm just going to shut up before we screw this up.
I love it. We're in agreement on the dollar and a dream. That's all I wanted. Now, Ross
Chastain's D, I thought.
Finishes. Huh?
I thought you said Matty D.
I said Ross Chastain.
Oh, shows you how much I've been paying.
7th at Road America. These are his road course finishes this year, all right? 7th at Road America. Now I got to go back a ways here. Bear with me. 7th at Sonoma. 4th at Circuit of the Americas. And where are we going here? Wait for it. The only other one would be the Daytona road course, and he wasn't as good there because he wrecked. Did not finish. So, I mean, those are 4 top 10s right there. You got a runner-up. You got a runner-up at Nashville. Ross Chastain's capable of winning one of these last few races in the regular season. He knows how to get around on super speedways. He did well at Daytona. Now, granted, half the field wrecked out of that race early. He's alive. 150 to 1. We're both on the same page. Dollar and a dream. I'm all about it. Are you with me? Would you rather bet Chastain at those same odds than Michael McDowell, who is already qualified for the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why McDowell's not winning, getting past round 16, unless something drastic happens. Like I said, he could win the second Daytona race here. That's the cutoff race, and I still don't see it happening. But it was a good moment for him at the 500. We both loved it. It was a good upset win, his first win in 300 plus odd starts. But the unfortunate part of it is the equipment is not good enough to stay there. And unfortunately, he will be eliminated in the round of 16.
Chastain's at least got the power under the hood that
and
could get in there and make something happen. So,
and like I said with Kurt Busch, Chip is going to want to go out a champion. I don't think he's won a championship in Cup Series, so why not go out on one?
Yeah, well, he's got one driver in, maybe get the other one. Kurt Busch said he owes Chastain a favor, too, after that little block at Atlanta, so maybe we'll see that down the stretch of the regular season as well, help his teammate get into the playoffs. All right, I think we touched on everyone of note here in the championship futures odds. Even got Quinn Houff in there, so 1,000 to 1 odds. Go for it. Really just Venmo McAdoo, but, well, I'll leave that be. Cool. So we touched on all the standings, touched on some little futures betting there for you. We'll put this one out, and then we'll look forward to getting back next week with Burnt Rubber Racing's return, kind of the main show programming, if you will. We'll have Watkins Glen to preview for NASCAR and IndyCar, that exciting, beautiful course that they're going to run on down in Nashville. We will look ahead to that as well and also catch up on any news and notes that between now and then. And then we've had the other news and notes, got that caught up on our first episode we did here tonight. So good stuff all around. Be sure to follow, subscribe to Burnt Rubber Racing, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you get yours, basically. Follow the show on Twitter at Burnt Rub Racing. Check out our written stuff over on flurrysports.org in the NASCAR section. We're ramping it back up here as action resumes this coming week. We're both looking forward to it. Anything else from you, Mr. McAdoo? We're both going to be at the Glen, too. We're both looking forward to that. So I don't know if you'll be able to put up with me for a whole weekend, but we'll see.
Yeah, I might have to put a pillow over your head before it's all over. But That's a joke. No, it's not actually going to do that. But before we get off here, I want to say I usually don't. I don't get into politics here on the show. You believe what you believe. But Henry and I, we're both big fans of Steven Crowder. For those of you who don't know, Crowder's been having health problems. Steven, we're praying for you, man. I hope you get better soon. I know you're probably not listening to this, but I still thought I'd throw that out there. And we can't wait to see you back, hopefully next month. But take your time. We want you back and fully healthy.
Amen. Prayers up, Steven Crowder. We love you. And good health to all of our listeners. We don't want to wish sickness or anything like that on anyone. So whatever you're going through, we'll throw a prayer up to you. Unless
you bet and quit Howe for Cody Ware, then you deserve. That's a joke. No, and we're canceled.
We got canceled a long time ago.
Oh.
As McAdoo throws a pen and hits himself in the face. Yeah, we're off the rails. I think we're done right there. We will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to Burnt Rubber Racing.